So there's no doubt right now, the economy's slowing down, interest rates are bouncing around, overall on the rise, and people are really confused about housing in general, buying a home, selling a home, our prices falling, our values going down. I'm going to talk about all that right now. I'm Aaron Thomas. I run a local real estate team in Thurston County, Washington. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about what's going on all over the nation, and then we're going to talk about what's going on in our own backyard. So let's just start with the elephant in the room, the word recession, right? Which scares everybody. According to the Wall Street Journal, 3/4 of global CEOs say we are in a recession or will be one in the next 12 to 18 months. So I don't know, but if 3/4 of the global CEOs think we're going to be in a recession soon or already are, I tend to believe. So what immediately happens when you say the word recession and you tie it to housing, because remember 2008, the housing crash, everybody starts getting a little squirrely. But let's look at what's happened historically. So throughout history, during a recessionary period, interest rates go up at the beginning of the recession. But in order to come out of a recession, interest rates are lowered to stimulate the economy moving forward. So historically, we've seen a repeated uptick in interest rates followed by lowered interest rates. And so far, that's exactly what happened. So if you've been paying attention recently, the Fed did increase the prime rate. All right, so everybody assumed that mortgage rates would sharply increase because they talk about it in points. But what happened is the rate actually dropped. So today we're sitting at 5.25% at the recording of this video, and we have already come down from 5.75. So we've seen a 0.5 point reduction. Now, it doesn't mean that the rates aren't going to go up. They may go up still, but it illustrates the point of this slide, which is a sharp rise in interest rates followed by a steady decrease of interest rates during a recession. So if we're to look back at the last 6 recessions on this graph, the area highlighted in yellow and then the corresponding numbers shows you what happened to interest rates. So the last recession, on the far right, small box at the bottom, 3.8 down to 2.8. That occurred during the recessionary period. And if we move to the left, 6 down to 4.9, and so on and so forth. So to sum it up, during the last several recessions, mortgage rates have dropped 1.8 percentage points, but keep in mind, this is from the peak. We might not be at the peak of the rate yet, but what it illustrates is if we do enter into a full-blown recession, that you could expect interest rates to drop, as evidenced by the past. So that's cool and all, right? Maybe rates will go down during the recession that may be coming or is here now. But what's going to happen to home prices? Don't have a crystal ball. I'm not saying it's going to happen this way, but the past is definitely a good indicator. So again, the last, and if you've watched my videos, you've seen this slide before, okay? The last 6 recessions, home prices increased 4 times out of 6. Last time in 2020, home prices went up 6%. So what you'll see is that in 2008, of course they dropped. So that recession was caused by an issue with lending and housing in general, and that's primarily the reason. But going back historically, you got to go back to 91, and we had a small dip, 1.9%. All the other times in recent history, home values have went up during a recession, and that's often lost on everybody. Everybody is very jaded from 2008, I would say. So when you hear the word recession and you tie it to housing, you immediately think that the prices are just gonna free fall. And what we're seeing in the market right now is people will drop the prices of their homes to get them sold that need to sell now. So we can see price drops on individual homes, and we can also see home values kind of stay steady or rise at the same time. Both things can happen at the same time. Both can be true. So for those of you out there that are looking to buy or sell, here's what's actually happening right now. And we're seeing this locally in Thurston County. And many areas of the nation are also seeing this. So the amount of offers on homes is down. The amount of offers over asking, if a home does get an offer right away, is down. Overall sales numbers down a little bit. Okay, so and I'll go into that later because we're just returning back to normal pre-pandemic for numbers. And the inventory is going up. Okay, the inventory still is historically low though. So we don't want to confuse those things. But I'll get into more details later, and you'll see those in the Thurston County numbers. So homes are still selling. It's just taking a little bit longer to get them sold. And the reason for this is a lot of people are confused, right? They think there's a whole bunch of listings flooding the market, and there's new listings coming on market at a higher pace because that typically happens this time of year, at least in our area. But the pace of the sales has slowed down. So let's look at this quote. This sums it up perfectly. There's been a pickup in the inventory that we've seen recently, but it's not from a big increase in new listings, but rather a slowdown in the pace of sales. So let me breathe some life into this by showing you the numbers here locally, and you will see how this demonstrates everything that I've been talking about. All right, so every year we have a month where we have the most amount of new listings, and that is actually happening right now. All right, so June 1 to July 1, we saw the listing inventory, the amount of new listings go up from 628 and to 746. Okay, so it's a 19% increase. That is normal for this time of year. What we want to look at is, and compare it to, is last year, which was 670. So again, we're still up over last year, but if we go back and look at where we were before the pandemic, so we're looking at specifically July 2019. Okay, back in that time frame, that was when we saw the same number roughly as we have had this last month, which is 746. So again, return to pre-pandemic numbers. So the biggest difference, the one that everybody is noticing, is the amount of homes you can go buy, the ones that are active. Okay, so if you look at the chart here, we went from 268, 358 up to 582, which is a big increase, 63%. So if we look at it compared to last year though, last year there was only 205 at the same time. So we're talking almost triple. Okay, so that's what we're seeing. Lots more inventory, more choices. It's a good thing for buyers. And if we go back before the pandemic and we look at July of 2019, we're dealing with the same exact number. So see how these things are lining up? Remember I said home sales are down. So look at the pending numbers. These are the homes recently under contract. And you'll see that for the year, we actually decreased from last month. But compared to last year, it's quite a bit less. So 682 this time last year, 556 now. It's a substantial drop. It's 18% drop. And you'll also see on the sold, so the ones that closed escrow, same thing. So sales down a little bit, really matching pre-pandemic, and inventory on the rise. How we measure inventory is in months of supply. And you'll see here, we've went from 0.6, 0.8 to 1.3, which is still historically low. So, but if you look at it, it's quite a big increase from last year. So we're talking about double. And if you go back to before the pandemic, in Thurston County, we had roughly the same number. So again, everything's pointing back to a return to a normal market, pre-pandemic. And what happens when there's more homes on the market? They're on the market longer. So the days on the market increases. So we're starting to see that happen, but it's still very, very low. So it's trending higher though. Another number that I'll share with you that really paints the story is how many people are out looking at homes. So interest rates go up, not every buyer qualifies for what they were looking to spend. So there's less people out looking for homes. So you'll see that the average amount of showings to get to a pending agreement has trended downward from 14 to 11 to now 10. So less people going through houses. And lastly, the one everybody cares about if they own a home is what's happening to the average home sale price. All right, so again, data is always about 30 days behind that reports to me. So what we saw is we were seeing sharp increases, 5,000, 10, 20,000 in a month. And from the last 30 days rolling, we actually saw an increase of only 2,000. So things are decelerating, meaning the value is still increasing, but very slowly. Still year over year, if you're in Thurston County and you own a home, last year at this time, homes were selling for about 501,000 on average, and now that number is 576. So it's not a bad thing. So where do we go from here, right? What's going to happen? Well, it's likely that inventory is going to keep increasing, but we'll want to be careful about what we're listening to with the media, right? So check out these headlines here. And in essence, the media is telling us that the housing market's cooling. It depends on the headline. Some are more aggressive than others. I like the second one, home prices decelerate. That's true. Buying a home at the wrong time can backfire big time. Here's why it may pay to wait. So we just have to be careful with the narrative here. And I imagine what they're talking about is, yes, there are situations where people are pricing their home the way homes were selling for in the spring. And so what we're seeing now is all that additional money that got stacked on top was all driven by multiple offer situations. And what we're seeing here locally is those homes are now being priced higher, and what the consumer is stating or wanting, or what they're agreeing to do, is purchase at the prices that before those bidding wars occurred. So what does it mean if you're looking to buy? What it means is, look at this slide here. That's what it means. The home price, what's going to happen with home prices, okay? If you're going to purchase a house and it's going to be 3 or 4 years from now, you need the home, what you're going to see is instead of having to deal with bidding wars, instead of the price going up 20% in a year, we should see a return to very modest appreciation levels. Now, if you're looking to purchase a home, you're going to be in it for 3 or 4 years. What this means is that the value should still increase year over year. So people can be dropping their prices and the home value can be going up at the same time. So again, here's what's expected for home prices moving forward. So this is 100 different housing experts and economists, and they're surveyed every quarter on what they think is going to happen with home prices for the next several years. So you can see that coming from 9.3 down to 4 to 3 to 3 to 4. So let's see even what Dave Ramsey has to say. The root issue of what drives house prices almost always is supply and demand. Now interest rates affect that. When interest rates go up, guess what? Fewer buyers. The demand goes down, thus prices are going to soften, which is what we're seeing, or not be as cray-cray as they have been. I can't believe you said cray-cray. And that's what we're seeing right now. So again, we know the supply is low. Now what about the demand? So according to the National Association of Realtors, 81% of first-time buyers fall into the category that you see here, which is millennials. And 43% of every buyer out there also falls into this category. So the demand, and it's a tremendous amount of demand, is coming from the millennial generation. They are in their peak home buying years, and it's going to continue. So the one thing I haven't talked about is, what do you do if you're a seller? If you're a seller right now in this market, just know that the inventory is going to be a little bit higher, which means you're going to have a higher market time. You need to be very careful about pricing your home. If you're going to use comparables, make sure that they are not the prices that the homes were selling for, which is customary to do, or you're at least mindful of it, of the homes in the March and April and May months. Because if you're pricing according to those recent sales that were escalated in a bidding war, you may find that you're now priced too high for the current market with the current interest rate. So you gotta be really careful about pricing. Doesn't mean your home's not gonna sell, just means there's more choices for buyers, and you may be on the market a little longer, and you may have to either, again, correct price from the start, or you may have to correct it after you've been on the market for a while to get that sale. So I know that was a lot of information, but as always, I am here for you. If you need some help interpreting your situation, whether you're selling or buying, please reach out to me.